Mezco's got 5 little monsters with 5 different movements. Here's your look at the brand new Mezco Toyz 5-point Mezco Monsters Tower of Fear. What you're looking at, by the way, is simply just the top of the box. Let me just take the camera and pan all the way down. There's the bottom of the box right there. This is quite a substantially large box that we're going to be opening up in a second. Might be one of those hard things that I wouldn't be able to get it on a turntable, but I did certainly, guys, want to show you what the box looks like before we open this up. Finally had arrived. I did order this over at Entertainment Earth. If you guys are certainly interested in get one for yourself, I provide the link down below in the video description. If it is still in stock, you can also save yourself 10% using the affiliate code. The box itself, if I can actually just show you guys what it looks like here from the side, it's a pretty substantially large box. If we flip around to the back, you can see what will be the Tower of Fear inside. Standing at a monstrous 15 inches once assembled, the retro place set diorama creates a decaying Carpathian castle with 3 floors, dungeon, main hall, and Frankenstein's lab. That is all read up. That's a read up, by the way, down below here. Some of the monsters, as you can see, are going to be contained inside, such as the sea creature, the werewolf, Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and the mummy. The box does have some adhesive here to the side, or a seal to keep everything closed. So we're going to have to open that up and obviously check that out in a second. Some assembly, again, will be required to put this all together. I have been extremely excited the idea of actually finally getting this in hand. I wasn't as necessarily impressed with the 5-point Chucky that we had recently had a look at. I kind of like the idea of being able to take parts apart on Chucky and be able to mix and match them around. But I thought the figure itself was sort of a little underwhelming. The Mezco's monsters, on the other hand, if it has anything just to do with the box alone and the image that they show on the back for the actual Tower of Fear, I think it's going to be a pretty cool looking setup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this very large box, like I said, and we're going to get this all opened up. And I'll do my best to put the tower together. And of course, when we come back, we'll get a closer look at the Tower of Fear. Well, that was not as fun as I was hoping. To help aid with whatever struggles you may have, and you're going to have quite a lot of struggles putting this thing together, you get yourself what I think to be is one of the vaguest set of instructions ever to come include with something that has to be put together. If you look at the steps provided by Mezco, they're vague. You're trying to do your best to figure out exactly what you're doing from step to step to step. And a lot of times, especially at the table area, I had no idea what was going on. They're vague, and they're not clear enough, really. Like, for example, when you install the balcony, they give you just an image of a rectangle, not enough to really convey exactly which way the balcony is supposed to go. You'll see what I mean in a second. And it's only one sheet, too, so it really needed to be fleshed out a little bit more. Colored images certainly would have helped. I ended up having to even go online and check images of the Mezco Tower of Fear, just so I had some idea of what this thing was supposed to look like when it was all finished. But again, other than just really the vagueness of the instructions, there's some assembly issues when it came to putting this all set together. I suppose before we actually look at the actual tower, let's look at some of the minifigures that come included with this. Now, I'm going to hold these all up individually so you guys can see what's all going on here. I will say, like the minifigures, the 5-point figures are the best things going for this set. The actual tower itself isn't bad, but it does have a few little problems to it. The first thing we get is Dracula. Longer-haired Dracula, as you can see, he's sporting a very long mustache there as well. I like the coloring on all of these figures. All of them, by the way, as well, come included with display stands. The stands almost seem as if they do have varying size of pegs, because this one doesn't fit necessarily Dracula, but it fits okay Frankenstein's monster. You'll get some of them, for example, like the mummy will have smaller peg holes in the undersides of his feet, so it doesn't look like the stands are universally sized. As an example, though, I'm just going to grab the mummy, and just to hold up the two, you can see, like, mummy's got notably a smaller peg. Why could they not have just given us all the exact same display stand with all the same peg? Why did we have to even overcomplicate just the acrylic stands alone? Move that to the side. But back to Dracula, though, like all of these will have 5 points of articulation. Detailed pretty good, I mean, as well, for something so small like this. I think they're really well painted, too. All of them, again, are very limited when it comes to articulation, so really all of them is just swiveling in the head. Dracula can't really move much in the way of his head anyways. You can rotate his arm all the way around, and the legs move back and forth there as well. He's got a really nice-looking jacket there, too. On the back, there's nicely painted there, too. Now, all of them also come included with accessories. Dracula just happens to come with what looks to be a transformation into a bat. It looks like also something you'd expect to see from Swamp Thing. This, just as far as I know, fits over top of his head. I thought initially you'd have to probably take the head off first, but it looks like the bat cowl piece literally just fits over top of his body. Doesn't it look like something we'd see from an old Swamp Thing toy line from Kenner? I like the bat. I think the additional having the transformation of the bat is also a nice touch for Dracula. And any one of these obviously can be fit on top of the tower anywhere that you really want to put them. Dracula doesn't really come with any other accessories that I can see. All the other ones seem to be designated for all the other characters, the other 4 monsters. But yeah, nice looking Dracula. He's not my favorite though from this set. Up next, let's go ahead and just take a Wolfman off his display stand. Again, it's small peg on this one, large peg on the other display stand. Okay, I'll stop talking about the display stands. Wolfman, though, is a nice looking figure. I would imagine he does have nards. I'm not going to bother to check, though. The detailing on his face is really nicely done here. You've got the teeth, both top and bottom, painted very nicely in white. I love the yellow eyes that they've given him. And they've given him a really good stance, too. Although this one does really require his display stand. Even though he does have the articulation where it counts, the feet, unfortunately, will always be posed in such a way that the figure requires a display stand. And again, they'll just plug into the undersides of Wolfman's feet. Nice looking figure, though. I even like the little tiny tie that they've given him as well. Ripped open shirt, ripped pants, as well as a few little rips in his jacket there as well. Yeah, just a really nice looking figure. Now, Wolfman comes included with a couple of accessories. I believe this to be his. It may very well also belong to maybe like the Mummy. But he comes with a skull. Nicely painted skull. He also comes included with a couple of bones. I'm not a doctor. I only play one on TV, so I can't quite tell you exactly what bones these belong to. But he comes with a little tiny small broken bone, and he comes with a much larger one. My dog used to love bones. I don't know if really bones is a safe thing to be giving dogs, but Wolfman apparently loves bones. So that's the Wolfman, and again, we'll go ahead and get him back onto his display stand. We'll just plug him on the bottom of here. There we go. If anything, even if I don't have a place to really store the Tower of Fear, I would definitely like to have the figures displayed of the actual Wolfman and the rest of the monsters, of course. Next one, another one of my personal favorites, we've got Frankenstein's monster. They've given him a furry tunic this time around, rolled-up sleeves, stitches all nicely done here in his arms. He looks to be almost like he's got a little bolt there in his hand, something that you don't expect to see with Frankenstein. And a nice overall head sculpt for Frankenstein's monster, too. Now, there is a little hidden Easter egg, or Easter brain, as it would be. You can just take the top part of his head off, and you can see exposed underneath is Frankenstein's brain. Roar. Just don't lose that, however you do. There is a peg hole right at the top of the brain, and then there's a peg at the top of his helmet, and that just basically fits in place. Just again, whatever you do, don't lose it. Nicely detailed figure, though. He's got the big clunker shoes there. Again, the articulation on all of these is just 5 points. 5 points of articulation. That's why they're called 5 points, after all. So you could really have Frankenstein sitting down if you want to. Really nice looking figure, though, on him. Up next, we also get ourselves a creature. The creature from the Black Lagoon, or the equivalent of that, the Gill Man. I don't know if I love the idea that they decided to give him sort of more of a metallic finish. It's certainly something that does stand out, but I think if anything, the colors are maybe a little bit too blue. Maybe if it had only been green, or if they only painted it simply just in green alone and not decided to go metallic, it still is a nice looking detailed figure. Very nice sculpt. I love the little gills, or I don't know if those would be gills. They would basically be like fins, I suppose, on the sides of his body. He's got it also down the sides of his legs there as well. Pegs on the undersides, of course, of his feet, so those plug into his display stand. This guy doesn't have as much articulation. I thought actually his head would be able to rotate. Oh, maybe it does. Just really tight on this figure. So it swivels more back and forth than anything else than, well, swivels up here. It would normally now, yeah, you get the idea. So the arms do also swivel all the way around. You can also move the legs back and forth there too. Nice creature. Another one that I'm also a big fan of here is the Mummy, who just happens to be off to the side. The Mummy is, again, very nicely detailed. You got the little bandages wrapped across the entire front of his face. Speaking of his face, though, he has one of the most interesting-looking mummy faces I've seen in a long time. Tiny little beads of white. You got the little exposed teeth there as well. Bandages, again, really nicely painted this guy. He doesn't have the same level of articulation, not to the point where you can actually swivel the guy's legs forward and back. This leg actually only rotates this way. So you wouldn't be able to get like a marching stance. You certainly wouldn't be able to sit down the mummy. He's only going to be rotating this way in his leg. And then this leg actually is the one that rotates just a little bit better. Arms, again, you can turn on this, and you can also rotate the head as well. I would say like Mummy, Wolfman, and Frankenstein's monster are my favorite of the ones that come included with the Tower of Fear. All of this time, by the way, I forgot to really look at the other accessories. So like Frankenstein's monster, backing up just a little bit, Frankenstein does come included with a little block. Now the block does shackle onto the side of his leg. It just clips on like that. So you can actually have the monster contained. I prefer to really have all the lab stuff on the top floor. Obviously, that's where the lightning's going to be coming down anyways. So you could have Frankenstein's monster up there, shackled onto the big concrete cinder block, and then just attached, again, you could just have that sitting on the shelf if you want to. As for the Gillman comes included with these wrapped up, I guess, little swamp leaves. And you could just take those, and it's not necessarily a rhyme or a reason for how you want to have these displayed. You basically just drape them over top of his body like that. And then he has like a little slightly smaller one. And if you unravel it, it's just basically one long piece, and that just, again, there's no real rhyme or reason. You can just drape that around his arm if you want to and just have it like that. The other thing that also Gillman comes included with is what I'm guessing to be the skull of one of his former species. Very nicely painted, though, as well. You can't swap it out or anything like that. You can't take off the existing head, and no, you can't do anything like that. But really nice-looking skull nonetheless. And then the last thing for Mummy actually seems to get the most of the accessories. First of all, he comes included with a little tiny king cobra. Love the look of the king cobra. No articulation, nothing that really actually moves on the snake. You get as well, I'm guessing this to be a cursed scroll. Isn't that the only kind of scrolls mummies really have? Cursed scrolls. Comes with that. He also comes included with a necklace piece. Now the necklace doesn't really fit very well over his head. I mean, you'd have to kind of take the head off, I think, and just wiggle this back and forth. I haven't yet actually done this, but I would imagine just like the necklace. Oops, I just dropped it. I would imagine the necklace would just fit over top of his head. You'd have to take off, though, the head in order to do that. And then he also comes included with tiny little trinkets that you probably would find inside his sarcophagus. Spells, curses. We still keep talking about curses. Probably tiny little things that he could carry around. Little vials, maybe ashes of some of his former family members. I don't know. You get a couple of those also as well. And again, like I said, you come included with these display stands. So those are the actual monsters. Like I said, though, the assembly of the Tower of Fear was difficult. Not more difficult in the sense that there was just too much to put together. There really wasn't, but with the instructions being as vague as it was, let's just slide everything out of the way here. With the instructions being as vague as it really was hard to kind of deduce exactly what Mezco Toyz exactly wanted me to do. I mean, I'm looking at the instructions, and even if you struggle with even just the first two steps, the first step involves taking the two columns, and these columns are already installed, so you don't have to worry about, well, everything is built in the sense that you don't have to start pulling things off of cardboard trays, taking off the little extra pieces that remain behind. I mean, everything, like I said, as soon as you open up the box, everything is there. You take the towers slide through this level of the floor. You then attach the towers to the bottom side of the top of the floor, and then that basically fits then into the bottom of the base here too. So like that's everything that kind of keeps the tower together. Where you really then start to struggle is, I found it was even difficult just right around here, because you do also get these, let me spin this to the side so you guys can see. You get these little plastic cobweb pieces that are actually there very good to keep everything together, because it'll take the floors and it'll attach it to the back side of the castle, and then everything will kind of be a little bit more stable together. Other assembly that was required also was that, and again, I find this was kind of a little ridiculous that they would have to install things like this, or they would have to include things like this where you'd be told it by the instructions. Well, you have to take this part, and you take this part, and you have to slide the two together. Could they not have? I guess they did it because everything has to lay flat inside the box, but you're literally just taking the electrodes, and they have to be slid into the back of the units here. There are also these holes there on the front that you get yourself an extra wire. The wire, if you plug this into the front, and then you take yourself Frankenstein's monster, who I just happen to have still shackle off to the side here, there is a hole on the back of the figure's neck that you can take the wire and then plug it right in. So I think that was kind of a neat touch there as well. So you have to take the electrodes, plug it into that side. You also get a smaller little lab, I don't know what you call that, like a little lab equipment piece. This also, again, you have to take the electrode and slide it also there as well. So those aren't the hardest things. I'll tell you though, here's the things I had the most difficulty with. And if you've picked this up for yourself, you guys can let me know as well if you've had similar issues. Is first of all, the lab table. The lab table, from what I'm understanding here and looking at the instructions, I think is missing something. I also checked online, and from what I've seen from other reviews, it seems like across the board or across the table, all the lab table was missing. So this part of the table, which it says operating table base plugs onto the bottom of the table bed. You don't get this part. What you do get instead is you get this part that's supposed to, I'm guessing, attach to the side of the actual tower, but it doesn't look like it attaches to anything. Like, there's nothing that I can see unless it's supposed to attach onto the lab table. The table is maybe the thing that kind of keeps everything together. And then you get this piece here. And again, like there's nothing that really attaches. If you were to look at the instructions, it says operating table base plugs on into bottom of table bed. And without, again, realizing that you are missing one of the table beds, you're just looking at these two pieces and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? There's nothing that connects the two together. So what I ended up doing, again, I looked online, and the only thing I'm seeing online is the fact that this extends out on the side of the actual tower. But there's nothing to keep it in place. Nothing at all. So what I'm just doing for the right now, at least, is I'm going to take this piece and I just kind of keep this kind of just resting underneath it. And it's just going to kind of hold. It gives us just a serviceable table, at least for right now. I don't even know if Mezco's got any plans whatsoever to replace those people replace that missing tabletop for collectors that had picked up the Fear Tower for themselves and maybe didn't get the chance. Because I'm guessing the Tower of Fear, all of them are missing this one component piece. The other thing that I had a hard time with, let's just spin the tower around. Don't worry, I'll show you guys what the tower looks like on both sides here. Here's the other side, by the way. Here's the front section. And going back just to the instructions, the balcony. The balcony right here, it says extended tab on balcony slides into slot in window. If you were to look at this, and I've seen some other videos where these were actually put in incorrectly, this is the balcony right here. But the way it slots in place, first of all, unfortunately, I did rip it trying to slot this in because you have that much space to work with and you have that much tab to work with. You could have either put it in so that if, for example, you could have had it like this. So again, it would have slotted in this way. But then I thought, okay, well, that's good if you wanted to have Dracula resting on top of it. But the fact that they call it a balcony implies, for me at least, the fact that someone would be able to sit inside of it. And it is actually printed. Let me just tip this. I'm going to knock everything off in the process. If you look at the inside of it, it is actually a finished inside balcony, which led me to think, okay, well, maybe the balcony is supposed to go the opposite way. Again, you'd really never be able to tell that based on just the instructions alone. With the way that the balcony, at least I've got it now, is that you can take yourself a character and sit him inside the balcony. You wouldn't be able to do that if it was the other way around. I guess you could do it both ways. If you wanted to have it more like a platform, you could then have the character standing on top of the platform. I prefer just to have it more so like a balcony. Okay, so let's move everything out of the way. The other things that the figures, or the other thing that the tower comes also included with, is all these extra pieces. If literally to look at the instruction sheet, you're thinking, well, how am I going to install these? Do they have a tab? No, they don't. What they have instead is the instructions that you're supposed to just take these. Where is it? Right here. Somewhere down here. Oh. All stone display pieces, which would be then, of course, these parts right here. All stone display pieces can be folded and assembled onto the ground floor using double-sided tape. That's all you're supposed to do. You're just supposed to fold this down, and you're supposed to adhere this to the floor. Could they not have come with something, even if they had just taken the idea of what they did with the cobwebs, so the little cobweb clips that kind of keep everything together, why couldn't they have used something similar like that, just have a little resting clip where these could have stood upright on their own? I don't want to start to think that I have to incorporate now tape into this. I don't want to add anything to cardboard, because if you ever change your mind down the road and you want to remove these, double-sided tape is some of the weakest adhesive you can use, but still I would imagine it probably would cause damage to the cardboard. So you get this one, you get one that has a skull, and then you get a little slightly smaller one. All of them work the same way according to the instructions. You're supposed to fold the flap down. You're supposed to literally just take double-sided tape and stick them to the Tower of Fear. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to destroy the tower. The last couple of things I did also want to show you guys as well is that there's a couple of sarcophagi. One of them is actually specifically designed for the mummy. All again, these are done with laminated cardboard. The inside looks nice. You got, again, like some hieroglyphics on the inside of that. You could take yourself the mummy, which I just happen to have off to the side here. Take yourself the mummy. The mummy can sit inside the sarcophagus. You could keep the sarcophagus partially opened if you want to, or you can also close it up completely. I suppose there's enough space that you can have it on the second floor. You can also have it down on the first floor also as well. And then also there's a coffin. So you basically, the coffin looks to be the exact same folded up piece of cardboard other than just printed a little bit differently. And this, of course, will then store Dracula. Whether you decide you want to have the figure displayed with the vampire part on top of his body or not, you can take then Dracula and set him inside the coffin as well. So you can have a couple of figures displayed that way if you want to. One other thing too, let's just move all these out of the way. Move this out of the way as well, and we'll just grab this. The last other thing here, I'll just pick up the tower so you guys can see there was also a stairwell. The stairwell is one thing. Again, you don't have to fold up any of these pieces, which is a good thing. I'm glad to see that you don't have to like start folding things up, which was really my biggest worry too when I was going to be getting the Tower of Fear. I thought, okay, is it just going to be like flat pieces of cardboard I'm going to have to all fold up? No, everything luckily at least is already assembled for you. And then the stairwell, at least from the instructions, the stairwell basically just tucks in like this. And now you've got yourself a series of steps to take you then to the second floor. Okay, so let's kind of get a good closer look at what's going on here with the Tower of Fear. You've got a little you got a little moat area there. It looks to be big giant leeches. And you also got yourself a little sewer grate there in the back. Of course, you got yourself a stairwell that's going to take you up to the second floor. Up on the second floor, there seems to be there a portrait of Vlad the Impaler, a couple of candelabras. There's also the window. And again, like for what it is, if to go in this expecting high expectations like this being made of plastic, you're going to obviously be a little bit more disappointed that it's just literally made out of cardboard. But I think for the cardboard and the fact that you're getting already figures along with this, I think this set set me back about $89. So I don't think it's super expensive. I mean, some would say like $89 is pretty high, but considering you get as many figures as you get, if you were not just to include the tower, I think the figures probably on their own could have sold for about $50 the set of 5. So the fact that you actually get yourself something that you could put on display isn't terrible. The second floor, I don't know what it was that getting this out of the box, it was bent right here. You probably can already see there's still a crease left behind. This was bent. It just seemed the way that they actually stored it inside the box. There's enough space inside the box to lay everything flat. And yet, unfortunately, the second floor got, as you can see, a little on the warp side. Again, you're going to take your pillar, and the pillar attaches down below here, runs all the way straight through here. So you're going to attach the pillars, first of all, to the first floor, and then those will then attach to the inside of then the second floor. And of course, it's going to attach down below here. So everything is generally quite stable. You almost even can hold the tower just by the pillars and posts alone. Here's a couple of those little clips that are onto the side. So you clip the side of the floor to this part, and then this obviously will then clip to the side of the main wall. On the main floor, though, of course, this is the section where you're going to be storing all the stuff for Frankenstein. So again, you've got yourself the little, the lab equipment. That's all going to go to the back with the electrodes. But not to mask anything, there's actually some nice little writing there on the back of the wall. Got some books, some elixirs. It looks like to be also a little jar of eyeballs and brains. Really nice stuff going on there. To flip this also around so you guys can see, I know we kind of already looked at this a little bit. There's a little monster there sticking his way out the front of the wall, a little claw. I love a little bit of blood that they've also got there as well. One of the other things, too, is that some have complained that Mezco kind of misled or misrepresented really what this tower was going to look like. I mean, if you look at the images online, there are a few sections like where the window looks like it's a completely finished window. Instead, these basically just all cardboard cutouts. So the characters can then, of course, walk their way through. I don't think I'm, again, that disappointed by the fact that I was misrepresented or misled for what the actual tower ended up being. The tower looks good, and again, for it being a cardboard piece, my biggest issue, I would say, isn't so much the fact it's made out of cardboard, is the fact that the instructions were terrible. I mean, again, like, just to bring back in the instructions aren't clear enough at all, and especially for the fact that not going in there knowing that something was missing. When you get to step 10 and you get to step 11, you could be completely lost as to where exactly stuff is supposed to go. I still don't know where that side extension is supposed to go, because there's nothing that, I'm guessing that the lab table is the thing that sort of brings everything together. And without having that one crucial piece that's required, it is sort of as just a standalone side piece. Speaking of side pieces, though, that's a weird segue. Speaking of side pieces, though, by far my favorite thing, though, is the actual monsters. And the idea that you can take yourself to little monsters, and you can, of course, put Frankenstein's monster up there if you want to. You could put the Wolfman here. I mean, you could put them any which way that you want. You've got at least a nice little display piece where you can actually put the pieces. Have you had the chance to pick up the Tower of Fear? And let me know down below in the comments section if you liked it, or if you've also been a little bit disappointed by it. I would say, though, I'm not disappointed picking this up. I'm actually rather happy that I have now something I could put on the shelf. I am bummed, yes, that it is missing something. I'm also equally frustrated the fact that it took me as long to put everything together because the instructions were as bad as they were. But at the end of it, you do get yourself some nice looking figures that can be put on the display. And you also have yourself a rather interesting looking way of displaying those 5 figures. What do you guys, though, think of the Mezco's Monsters Tower of Fear Deluxe box set? Again, if you guys are interested, this one I think is still available. I grabbed this one over at Entertainment Earth. It was just a little over $80. One good thing as well is if you guys did want to use the link that's provided in the video description, that link will also save you 10% on anything that's over on their site, whether that be the case of getting the Tower of Fear, or if it's anything else over on their site, it'll save you 10%. So $89 or a little over $80 for the price that they were asking for the set. You can sort of offset that just a little bit. If you guys, though, in the meantime, did enjoy this video, I want to throw it a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, and you certainly would like to stick around for more, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and you're turning on the bell notification. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.